Hello, ladies and gentlemen, and welcome to the RENNSPORT Founders League, to the second round of this season. Slightly postponed. It was scheduled for 2 days ago, of course, but due to some issues, we are running it today on a Sunday. And today we are running the GT4 cars. The first race, of course, is a 60-minute race in the GT3 cars. This time a 90-minute race in the GT4 cars. Longer race, slightly more challenging cars. And luckily, I don't have to make it through alone because I'm joined by Tim Ireland in the commentary booth.
Hello, Lino. Yeah, I've been looking forward to this one because, as you'll have known from internal testing, we did a lot of testing at Nürburgring on GT4s, and I always really like it on GT4s. So I'm really excited to see what the racing's going to be like today.
Yeah, I mean, you can also see, or rather not see in certain cases, that it's nighttime. Since we kind of run a daytime cycle throughout the season. The first race was from midday to evening, and now we are running through the night in those GT4 cars. And do you think it's much more of a challenge, especially now in qualifying, or do you think it can maybe help some drivers with a certain tunnel vision to focus on the track instead?
From personal experience, I find it much more challenging at night. I tend to look quite far ahead when I'm driving, and yeah, the Nordschleife can become a very small area that you can see at night, so it can be super challenging to drive on. I think whoever's at the front is probably going to have the biggest challenge to begin with, as at least everyone else can just follow the red lights in front of them in the race. So yeah, I think being at the front and being able to break away, you're going to have a lot of nerve and a lot of confidence in your own ability.
Yeah, I mean, we can already see some people sending it. Of course, cars being ghosted on each account, we can just see them to compare them. Maximilian Dehn being the first one out, he's won the first race. Not driving a BMW, but driving a Mercedes. But his closest competition from the last race isn't here today, is he?
No. We've got a few drivers here, a few new names again, a few old favorite names, but yeah, he's got to be feeling fairly confident, I'd say. He clearly showed his skill in the Nordschleife in the first race, so I'm sure he's got it fairly nailed down in the night time. But it could make for some super interesting racing. And of course, the pit strategy is going to be an entirely new thing with a 90-minute race on different cars.
I mean, the GT4s are less fuel hungry, and they start with a little more starting fuel. But
Yeah.
the calculations are still a bit different, of course. And these things, due to less downforce, they can also run pretty fast on the Döttinger Höhe.
Yeah, they've got a lot more gears than you think they do. So yeah, they can go super fast down Dottinger, and tires could also play into it a bit more than it did in the 60-minute races. I doubt there's many people in the field who've driven 90 minutes in a GT4, so it could be new for everybody.
I mean, it's the longest race we've run on the Nordschleife so far, and it's the second longest race I think we've run overall.
Yeah, I think so. The Spa 2.4 hour being the currently longest race we've done. I don't think we've done many races above 60 minutes yet. So yeah, it's going to be an interesting test for everybody.
We also got Rainer Winkler, one of the best contenders for yesterday's race, leading, I think, about 50 minutes of this race until he was overtaken by Joachim Thunder, who is also here today, also in an R8, of course, as you're used to from him. But let's see what he can do on the Nordschleife. He's really developed as a driver, something we've also seen with Ali Zahir, I'd say. these two really have come a long way from when we first seen them on track to what they do now.
Yeah, for sure. We've had a few drivers who have grown into RENNSPORT quite a lot, and we've had some. You all know the regulars by now that we've had on, and you've seen them develop, and you feel a bit nurturing towards them. But a distinct lack of Audis today. Most people going for the BMW.
I mean, the Audi is a bit more peaky, I think. Something that you, of course, also notice in the GT3. The BMW in the longer one can be a bit more of a safer alternative. It's also a bit of strategy game, I think. If you are confident with the Audi and you can keep it in balance for 45 minutes on the Nordschleife, you can think about changing tires instead. So maybe...
It definitely rotates differently to the BMW, as you'd expect, with it being mid-engine, isn't it, compared to the front engine of the BMW. So it can be interesting to get used to, but it feels really good when you do it right.
I mean, if I take a look at the drivers and what they chose, it's pretty much that, of course, the typical AMG and BMW drivers chose the BMW because it's closer to their GT3 of choice. The Audi drivers stayed with the Audi, and the Porsche drivers, interestingly, also switched to the BMW. But there might also be some truth to the old saying, people buy a Porsche after they crashed their BMW. So maybe that's also one of the reasons. But Maximilian Dehn now threw Galgenkopf onto the Dettinger Höhe. And if we go on board with him, we may see some high speeds. I think with the GT3s, we hit about 272 after Antonius Buche.
Yeah, I think it's just above 270, yeah. But as you can see, he's creeping up there already.
Of course, also an amazing sound in that BMW. And already 272.
Already hit 7th gear. No, he's just going to red light it in 6th.
That was still
280 by the end there?
276, something like that, but still enough to bully the GT3s on the straight. So once we get into multi-class racing at some stage on the Nordschleife, this might be very interesting. Maximilian Dehn will be the first one to set a lap time, and it's an 8:41, and that will be a very strong lap from him.
He was getting a bit squirrely at the end there in the last couple of corners. He was pushing it, but that is an impressive lap time.
And of course, you also don't want to invalidate it. We are waiting for more people to come across the line. Of course, some invalid. Champach being the second one to set a valid lap time. I think he was also in the first round of the Founders League. Alizaya being a bit down on the time. Oh, and Wollschläger way too late into the Hohenrhein chicane.
Pushing it a little bit too hard there at the end of the lap. It's always a tricky one with qualifying when you know you've only got one lap. It's like, do I push it? Do I play it safe?
But yeah, now we are waiting for the drivers to scan into the race, because we will have a rolling start. Led by Maximilian Dehn. Lots of BMWs up front. But what you see right now on the screen is, of course, the schedule for the season. We are currently at round 2. And in 2 weeks' time will be the third and last of the regular races, to say it like that, with the TCRs. And they will be very different and will be very interesting to see what they can do on this track. We haven't seen much of the TCR action yet on the Nordschleife.
No, and they're totally different driving experience again. I know we said GT4s are different to GT3s, but obviously they're both at least rear-wheel drive. Going front-wheel drive is going to be a big change for a lot of the drivers.
Yeah, especially with fuel consumption and especially the tire wear. But on the other hand, of course, front-wheel drive means that it's at least not oversteery. Oversteer is a bit harder to catch over a longer time, especially if you're newer to the cars. But understeer is a bit more counteractable, let's call it that. So
Yeah,
maybe it will also help one or two people on the grid. But that we will see when it's time for this race in 2 weeks. Because now we will focus on the GT4s and we can hear the engines come to life in the background. Led by Maximilian Dehn. And we will start in the night as it will become daytime later on in this race.
the BMW procession.
Bit of
With
a
the
gap.
odd Audi sneaking in there for good measure.
They're getting ready for the green flag. And we go racing on the green hell for the second time in the Founders League. It's a good start from Maximilian Dehn. We can already see one of the Audis that should be Rainer Winkler making a move. But here we come down to turn 1, side by side further behind. And a big incident as well further behind.
Yeah, a bit of door banging, but I don't think it was anything too serious there. It was a fairly clean start.
I mean, of course, it's gonna get crammed with 14 cars into this first chicane. Joachim Thunder already up to 6th and Matteo Gaspari already up to 7th. They started way down the order. So the 3 Audis in this race all behind each other. And around the outside, can they make it around Timothy Fritsch? Of course, one of the most consistent drivers. He's also had a good finish in the first race.
He's getting mobbed by Audis right now. Joachim Thunder making a really nice move around the outside and making it stick.
Was indeed a very nice move.
Up front, Maximilian Dehn not making his trademark getaway from the other rounds. He had a bit of a bigger gap a second ago, and it's actually come down slightly.
Becerra definitely pushing the German. Of course, last time around he was also helped a bit by the disruptants in the GT3 grid behind him.
Yes.
Especially a certain Tim Schroeder couldn't qualify as good as he usually would.
Well, the field quite quickly stringing out there. I mean, there's obviously a fairly large difference in pace across the drivers, but they're all staying pretty clean now. They've got a bit of space around them, so there shouldn't be too much door banging going on, which will be good for everybody all around.
Oh, Rainer Winkler way out of shape though through Hatzenbach. But yeah, of course, now that you're on the green hell itself, on the Nordschleife, you don't want to really have a car alongside you trying to get past. So most people tend to be a bit more calm and big off there for Rainer Winkler. And it seems like he also immediately parked the car to not hit other drivers.
The Audi can be very interesting with if you have to come off the throttle on a corner, it can suddenly rotate a lot. It doesn't handle changes in throttle during the corner very well, I don't think. So if you're coming around a corner and realise you're going into it too hot, it can be a bit sketchy.
Indeed. Meanwhile, also Nicolas Bessiere, who I presume is in some form related to Marin Bessiere, is hunting down yet another BMW in the hands of Ali Zaher. So maybe we'll get to know if they are brothers or in other form related. Meanwhile, Gaspari off in Adenauer Force, but they are both hunting down BMW each.
I don't know about you, Lino, but I tend to find when I'm on the Grand Prix circuit at the beginning of the race, everyone's driven the Grand Prix circuit a million times before, so you tend to race that. But as soon as you make that left-hand turn onto the Nordschleife, oh, that was a big hit by Keza there. As soon as you turn onto the Nordschleife bit, my brain immediately switches to it's all about surviving. Just get around the track now.
I get what you mean. There's like a certain difference when you come from the pre-circuit to the Nordschleife. What I used to have, and sometimes even still do have, is that I'm actually more prone to errors on the Grand Prix circuit compared to the Nordschleife. But look at this train from Zaher, Bessiere and Thunder. Thunder sitting in behind the two BMWs, waiting for his time to strike. So they approach, which should be the back right corner, and now you have this long run up the hill through Kesselchen.
Yeah, it's imperative you get a good run up there, and you've got to be a brave man to do an overtaking move.
Do you think we will see a move into Mutkurve?
I don't know. I don't know. Maybe with it being a 90-minute race, they're either willing to just sit back and let it happen for now. Just keep following, not make any stupid moves too early. Maybe later on in the races when we'll start seeing people get a bit more ambitious.
Indeed, of course, it's a long way to go and we've not even completed the first lap. And the safest overtaking opportunities, of course, still to come now. So as long as you can keep it close now through the descents after the carousel, which we are going through right now, you have a good shot at overtaking on the Döttinger Höhe.
Yeah, I'm interested to see the difference between the cars down Döttinger Höhe. Whether the Audi always seems to be closing up a little bit in the twisty sections here. I wonder if has it got the legs to make a move down Döttinger Höhe.
And I mean, will we potentially see a 3 wide?
Yeah. Yeah, going under the Bilstein Bridge with somebody alongside you is always a pretty nervy moment.
Oh, side by side through the carousel, you don't see that every day. Wollschläger and Gaspari.
Yeah, Wollschläger trying the particularly manly option there of trying to go around the outside out, not even on the banking.
If it was by choice, we will see later on, but I would doubt that for now.
Yeah. I was trying to be positive about it.
Oh, there's Bessiere off the line. He is faster than Aliza, I'd say, but he just can't find his way through.
Nice jump from Zaire there.
Could join the Olympic Games with that, couldn't. Oh, but it seems Joachim Thunder has made a mistake and lost quite some significant ground. That's especially in a place where you don't want to lose that amount of time. Oh, and Gaspari is also around. Meanwhile, the two leaders of Dane and Bessiere are already on the Döttinger. They are stretching their legs here.
Yeah, I mean, they're both in a completely different pace category to everyone else here. The two leaders have got 28 seconds on the rest of the field right now after one lap. That's pretty impressive.
Let's see now. Bessiere is not in the best position to slingshot by. He's a bit too close for that. what will he decide to do?
Being forced around the outside, which of course quickly becomes the inside.
I think he's already passed before Antonius Buche. Very crucial for him now.
Yeah.
It's of course also a thing with those GT4 cars, since they don't have as much downforce as the GT3. The slipstream is a bit weaker compared to it.
Yeah, and obviously the braking distances are a bit longer, where you get the heavy braking zones, like they've just been through and turn 1. So there is a little bit more option for a bit of a robust overtaking maneuver.
But Alisa is not quite done yet. He's having a look into the Yokohamas, but he can't quite find his way through to counteract Nicolas Bessiere. Meanwhile, it's also already getting a bit brighter out there.
Yeah, it's not going to be quite as tunnel vision as it was on the last lap. It's give people a bit of well-received peripheral vision. I'm sure we'll all be happy about that.
Indeed. We are right now at about 5 AM in-game time, so it's only getting brighter from here.
Marin Bezier is definitely not giving up. He's still fighting with Maximilian Dean. He's not willing to just let Dean stomp off into the distance.
It's certainly a different race for Maximilian Dehn here, isn't it?
Yeah, for sure. I wonder if Marin Bezier's maybe got a bit more of a handle on the GP Strecker. He seems to catch up a little bit there, or at least has done the last 2 laps. It's just whether or not he can get close enough to take advantage of it.
He seems to be particularly strong on the Grand Prix circuit. That's why he gains quite a few 10th actually.
Yeah.
But I mean, it's also something we talked about last stream, that some people are just Nordschleife specialists, and I think Maximilian Dehn might have some experience on this track from other platforms he used before. So
I think he might do, yeah, given his lap times. I think he may have put the odd lap down on the Nordschleife before.
You know, if you look further down the grid, in 6th you have Thierry Talby, who I think lost out a bit on the start, but is now on a good trajectory to catch up on the pack in front. And Timothy Fritsch, who was of course overtaken by the Audi pack on the opening lap, but he's lapping solidly in 7th right now, and that's what I talked about. He's just very consistent in his way of driving, and that's how he usually ended up in a good position in, for example, the RENNSPORT community leagues.
Yeah, it's a long race and consistency counts for a lot, so you definitely can't discount that as a perfectly valid strategy on these kind of races. Stay out of trouble, just put your laps in one after another.
I mean, the last race he finished in 6th, behind the likes of Kuppel, Ladler and Krause, so...
Yeah.
But look at that beautiful sunrise in the sky. Of course, the drivers won't really focus on that right now. They are driving against other highly powered machinery, but...
You'd hope Zahia's not worrying too much about the sunrise.
I mean, if you look at... Well, Zahia going in for it in a very unusual place, but... If you take a listen to some driver radios, especially in the longer endurance radios, there's sometimes very funny conversations about stuff you wouldn't anticipate a driver talking about.
Because Zahir and Bezier here having a bit of fun and games in a few corners has let Joachim Thunder catch right up. So I think it's back to being a three-way battle again.
And while these three are fighting, Talby is still catching up. He's only 4 seconds behind Thunder now. So in the last 5 kilometers he made around about a second up on the Audi driver. And the two BMWs in front. And the gap between Dehn and Bessiere is staying at around 2 seconds. So this will also result in a strategy race in the end, I think.
Yeah, it's a close gap for sure, and it's definitely something you can make up or lose in a pit stop. So yeah, I think Marin Bezier is doing a really good job of staying in contention here. It's Maximilian Dean's not going to be able to just check out and put his car on autopilot for the rest of the race. He's got to actually think about it this time a bit more.
I'm not quite sure, but I don't think Dehn has changed tires last time around as well. But he could have done so. Because he had the gap to do it on Tim Schroeder. He did change tires?
And he did have the gap. I don't think he did
okay.
change tires now. This is a very different ball game with regard to tyres, so it'll be interesting to see what choices people make, whether they decide to play it safe and go for new boots or risk it. Of course, everybody's starting with the same fuel, so the pit stop should happen at around about the same time. These GT4s using less fuel than the GT3s. They've still got plenty left in the tank at the minute. So it won't be for a little while before they start doing pit stops. So but then people have got some big decisions to make. Because you don't really want to be stopping a second time.
It's amazing to see Dehn and Bessiere throw the car through the likes of Stefan Bellof and so on. They are so aggressive with the curves. I'm always amazed by the looks of it.
It does look really nice, doesn't it? And Bezier this lap with quite a few purple sectors to his name. He's closed the gap up, if anything, in the last couple of sectors.
Meanwhile, the gaps between the cars from P3 to P6 have equalized quite a bit. So they are all roughly the same distance apart from each other. Even though, as I say so right now, Alizar has just made a huge jump on Nicolas Bessiere.
Yeah, Joachim Thunder's dropped back a little bit, but he's got plenty of the lap. And we've almost got a 4-car train going on there.
Joachim Thunder's always close in the sectors where he doesn't need to be.
Always an unfortunate way for your car to be is when you're fast in the bits that don't really make that much difference.
But here comes Alizar, yeah? To the right of Nicolas Bessiere, and it seems like a pretty much carbon copy of the move we've seen the lap before, just the other way around.
Thought Bezier was going to try and fight back for a second there, but he decided to think better of it and ease off.
But Bessiere is now in a good position on the start-finish straight, goes to the inside. will Alizar make the corner?
Ooh, only just.
Only just, but
This
loses
could
to
be-
the end.
Oh, so did Bezier as well, though. He didn't get a very clean launch.
Still enough to reclaim that position. It's of course also something very cool, at least I think so, about the combined circuit of Nordschleife and GP track, that you basically always have a chance to come back at the driver who overtook you with the slam dunk overtake. Oh, but Alizar
Yeah.
going very wide through the Dunlop curve.
Oh, he's going to be kicking himself about that one.
Promotes Thunder into fourth.
Last lap, Marion Bezier was 0.3 seconds faster than Maximilian Dean, which over 25 kilometers is not a big difference, but he's still faster.
It is. And I mean, it is also without the help of Slipstream that you could say, okay, he made it up on the dirting, and he's a bit too far away for that to be really the case.
Yeah, he's the 2.5 right now, so he needs another couple of laps at the same difference before he's really kind of starting to even begin to feel the slipstream effect.
But the important thing is, he can see Maximilian Dehn. He has a
Oh, yeah, for
target.
sure. Yeah, out of sight, out of mind is definitely a saying that is applicable to the Nordschleife. If you can see those lights blinking on and off in the braking zones, you know that you've got someone to chase down.
But look at Alizar, right back on the back bumper of Joachim Thunder now. He isn't really interrupted by the little off-track.
No, he seems to have recomposed himself, which you'd expect. He's been racing with us for a while now. Alizar, he'll probably have a good swear about it and then get back on, take it out of his mind and get back into racing.
Is he going for it through Schwedenkreuz? He can make it, but it's very risky. Comes across the nose of Joachim Thunder, but keeps the car. What a catch.
That was an impressive move.
Of course, Joachim Thunder not too happy with that, but...
I would have thought he'd probably need a change of underwear after that one.
I mean, you can not blame Joachim Thunder for that. No way, of course. He gave him enough space. Alizar just missed it. Oh, and that's Nicolas Bessier, I think. In the barrier. That's also very unfortunate for him.
Yeah, he's dropped back a few. I was just thinking he was probably over the moon that Thunder and Zahir were fighting, but maybe tried to push it a little too hard and take advantage.
Talking about Alizar and Joachim Thunder, it seems like Zahir let Thunder back through for that move. Of course, he's one of the fairest players in the game, same was for Thunder.
Yeah, and they both know each other very well by now. They've raced with each other in a lot of series.
But still, to keep that car under control, of course, the corner kind of helps here as well with the way it's shaped in case you have a drift like this, but it's still... You're going, what, to 40 to 30 through that turn?
Yeah, it was an impressive move. I would have been pretty happy to keep it on track.
Oh, but again, Alizar very wide and into the wall. You can be happy that there's no damage, but now Thierry Talby is up into fourth. You know, up front, Marion Bessier has lost quite some significant time to Maximilian Dehn.
Yeah, he must have had a bit of a tiny incident as he was driving there, because he does seem to have gone a little bit backwards. Still, after nearly half an hour of the race. It's a respectable gap to Maximilian Dean, and I'm sure he won't have given up just yet.
See if he can find back to form. But it's, of course, also getting brighter and brighter on the track. Still fairly dark through this section due to the trees and shadows, but overall, sun is rising.
Thierry Tolby has got past Ali Zahir somewhere along the lines as well. Definitely having a good long fight going on between kind of 3rd and 6th right now. There's been a few position swaps. They're not too far away from each other. They're not tripping over each other either.
Let's just hope that the few incidents Alizar had during this lap didn't really knock on his confidence.
How could you have a knock of confidence from that beautiful sunrise? Unless it shines right in your face.
That's a fair point. Oh, but again, wide and onto the grass.
If he's been having a few sketchy incidents, maybe his tyres are just a little on the warm side, not quite as grippy as they should be.
Of course, very hard to judge later in this race.
Yeah.
Now let's hope that he doesn't fall back into the claws of Nicolas Bessiero. Yeah, Thunder getting quite a bit sideways there across the crest.
Maximilian Dean coming onto the start-finish straight, and he's into the pit lane.
But so is Bessiero.
Yeah.
We are at the end of lap 3, so with a bit of fuel saving you can make 4 laps, I believe, but other than that it will be a bit hard.
Dean is changing tyres. We have a nice quick stop, very little added time there.
What is Bessiero doing there?
Bessiero is also changing tyres. His stop was a little bit messier than Dean's. He's going to have lost a second or so.
Talbi not quite close enough to get to Thunder.
Dean off the edge, Jackson making his way down pit lane. Bezier will be just in a second.
There's Thunder and Talbi coming into the pits. So we see Bessier leave in front of them.
You'll just be able to see Bezier, Thunder, Tavi, Zahir all coming into the pits now. Nicolas Bezier also coming into the pits. Thunder is changing tyres. So it looks like changing tyres seems to be the way people are going right now.
Oh, and Alizar missed his pit box. He has to go way back.
Talby is not changing tyres. He's gambling with it. Zahir also not changing tyres. So we've got some changes in strategy here.
Time. We are one third of the way through, so these tests still have to last longer than 60 minutes.
Yeah. Nicholas Bezier is changing tyres. Timothy Fritsch is gambled on not changing tyres. I think the main impact of all this is going to be it'll really mix up the traffic with people changing between those that have changed tyres and those that haven't. Maximilian Dean also putting a lot less fuel on board than Marin Bezier.
Callback driving with the left indicator on. It's also an interesting sight to see.
Because at the minute there's nothing in the hood to show that you've got your indicators on, so you never really can tell if they are or not.
I wonder how it is in a real race car. Of course, you might have some indication of it. But, I mean, if there's, for example, the clicking sound, you know from if you drive a car, from the indicator, you won't hear that when your engine revs up to 6,000 RPM.
No, for sure. But yeah, I'm assuming they have something on the digital display in the car that says that their indicators are on or not.
I mean, in doubt the race engineers will scream at them and say, hey, your indicator's on. Turn it off.
Yeah. But these guys here don't have any such backup. They've got to be their own race engineers.
Or some might have. I mean, sometimes there are people in sim racing who be the race engineer for their friend.
Yeah, true. Marin Bezier lost quite a few seconds in that round of pit stops. But like I said, he's taken on a lot more fuel than Maximilian Dean.
Do you think they will come in for a second stop?
I'm wondering if Dean is going to come in for a second stop and Marin Bezier has gone for a one-stop strategy. The same with the people who didn't change tyres. I wonder if they've gone for a bit more of a two-stop strategy and they'll change tyres in the second one.
Of course, with all the loads going through the car, you might gain quite a significant amount of time with A, fresher tires, or B, less fuel and therefore less weight on the car. And the pits aren't that costly on the Nordschleife, I'd say, compared to other tracks.
No, maybe not. I think I would have expected everyone to change tyres at some point in this race. I think, although 90 minutes on a GT4 tyre is probably doable, I would have thought there'd be a bit of a mess by the end. And with starting fuel being fixed like it is, then everybody has to kind of stop somewhere around lap 3.
Meanwhile, Jason Kizar had that massive off in Mesketsfeld in the first lap. Is back up into 10th. Timothy Fritsch, who we talked about earlier, is up in 6th. That's also where he finished in the first race of the season. Talking about consistency.
Yeah, I think you've got some consistency from Timothy Fritsch there compared to I think self-confessed inconsistency from Jason Kazar there, who has been saying for a while now that he's never really been that great at doing valid laps on the Nordschleife.
It is a hard task though, so...
It is,
I don't think he does it for all too long, all too much time. But he's so far quite an on and off driver, I think. He can be super fast, we've seen that yesterday. He can be fast and also fairly consistent in run race, and the other can't get to grips with the car. Even if it's sometimes the same car.
I know it's maybe a lack of practice, but I can I can completely sympathise with that. I know sometimes I'll drive a car one day and I'll feel fine, and I'll drive the same.
Ooh,
Oh,
big off for both of them. Clipping the
synchronized
grass.
spinning.
But if you're watching this in post, Jason, we had it on camera. I'm sorry for that. I know yesterday he texted me, were all my spins on camera? And I was like, nah, not all of them. Only most.
Yeah, because of the differences in pit stop strategy, the Tolvi's Zahir Thunder Fritsch Bezier battle has kind of spread out a little bit more now. But it'll be interesting to see where that... I'm assuming at some point that's going to kind of concertina up and become a little close battle again. So it'll be interesting to see when that decides to happen.
I wonder what will happen with Marin this year. He's now 15 seconds behind Maximilian Dehn, but if I remember correctly, he did change tires?
They both changed tires.
They both changed tires.
Yeah, Bezier took on a lot more fuel though. As it stands right now, trying not to be too exact, but Maximilian Dehn has got about starting fuel worth in the car. And 54 minutes of the race left to go, whereas Marin Bezier has substantially more. So I think Maximilian Dehn is going for a two-stop strategy. Of course, if he is, he's putting it to good use because he's thrown down some purple sectors. He's definitely been trucking along. He has increased the gap a little bit from Bezier since the pit stop.
It's also amazing to see the gap between the front two drivers. And then Tabi in third, who is right now on the Höhe, the 5 car.
Yeah, it's a big old gap on the track map, isn't it?
But still, Maximilian Dehn can't relax in this way, especially if he has one pit stop left to do. He will have the faster car in the end, I presume, but if he has to come in and Marin Bezier doesn't have to, he has to make up some time.
One thing I hadn't noticed before is that the number 7 car currently in 9th, Matteo Gaspari, he has not pitted yet. As you can see, he's still quite a way off the start-finish line.
And he also has the long straight still left to go.
Yeah, I think Lift and Cursed maybe be in his future. Although they don't burn as much fuel as the GT3 cars, they still burn fuel quick enough to make your average road car's eyes water.
Depending on how you drive those cars. Oh, cross the grass, bit of rally crossing, but if you keep this wheel straight and let off the power a bit, it's not the biggest issue to catch the car. Biggest mistake is, of course, to smash the brakes or try to turn back onto the road. Then you can pretty much
making any kind of big inputs is a no-no.
I mean, it's a general thing. If you find yourself slightly off track, you have to commit to that off track. You're gonna get that incident point usually anyways, so rather try to save the car and not lose too much time over it. Meanwhile, Joachim Thunder has gone past Alizar here for 4th. Here comes Gaspari.
Yeah, he's not been holding off the throttle at all. He's definitely been committing to that strategy. But fair play to him. He's calculated it pretty much bang on.
Indeed. Will he come out in front of Kazan Wollschläger? That's the question.
Probably going to be hoping for a decent pit stop here.
Oh, what happened to Jason Kizar? He's very slow. It might be the beginning of the Döttinger Höhe. Is he out of fuel? Did he miscalculate the fuel usage of his car?
I thought he refueled. I'll try to find him.
But he's stationary.
He is out of fuel. He has not refueled.
What a shame for the Canadian.
He took the Remco Major back gamble and it did not pay off.
I mean, what separated him from the pits? Around about 3 kilometers of being able to just let the car roll?
Yeah, I think so.
I mean, we've seen a bit of a fairy tale story 2 weeks ago with one of the Audi GT4s rolling out of fuel in the Monza race and one of the other Audis pushing it into the pits late in the race.
Yeah.
But Jace Kizar already getting back to pits with his car. What a shame, though.
I know he was a bit worried about doing a longer race on the Nordschleife, so I hope he isn't going to be like, oh no, I ran out of fuel, I couldn't carry on. It's a weak excuse, Jay.
Be better. Just confirming in the Discord he forgot to fuel until it was too late. So maybe he was in the pits already and...
Yeah.
Even though you have to disable refueling.
Well, yeah, it is on by default.
Or he didn't come into the pits at all. I mean, he
yeah.
was a while back after his incident.
Maximilian Dean's stamping his authority on the race at the minute. He's in sector 6 and he's done 5 purple sectors so far. So
and the 6th one is also green, so...
He's decided if he's going to make his... what I still think is going to be a 2-stop strategy work, he needs to throw down some really fast laps.
Also bang on with the curbs, not leaving an inch on the track.
Further down the field, we have a little battle brewing between Ali Zahir and Timothy Frisch. They are keeping each other well in their sight. And yeah, they've got a fair gap ahead to Joachim Thunder, so Nobody will be immediately benefiting from this little tussle.
Almost bump drafting. Now coming into Huach.
Ali Zahir has picked up a 5-second penalty. Must be for track limits. Oh,
Oh, loses the car into the barrier.
alright, does a NASCAR wall ride and survives.
I mean, it didn't really gain him time compared to the Ross Chastain move. Bit untypical for Alisa here, I'd say.
Yeah, he's obviously been pushing it today with him picking up a track limits penalty. So he's not been taking it easy.
You know, it seems that Nicolas Bessiere has found his groove again after his off in, I don't know, first few laps ago. Maybe also helped by the time conditions being a bit more into his favor.
Yeah, you'll have seen Ali Zahir, the time to Zahir drop quite dramatically there, which is always a bit of a confidence boost. Well, or should I say motivational boost when you see that happen.
Also, we are past half time or half distance of this race, if I've seen that correctly.
Yeah. Got a bunch of drivers with around about 10 seconds between them right now, which were all of the ones who either took tyres or didn't take tyres. They've all got roughly the same amount of fuel on. There's a little variation, but not a lot. They should be pitting, if again, I think, within the lap of each other.
I mean, logically, we would expect them at around about 60 minutes into this race. So lap 7 or lap 8.
Oh, and Ali Zahir is into the pits. Maybe, I can't remember if Zahir changed tyres the first time around. I wonder
No,
if
he didn't.
I wonder if he's decided it's not worth it. Especially with a couple of off-track moves he's just done. Yeah, he's serving tyres, changing tyres, servicing penalty, and doing a little bit of refueling.
That will surely get him to the end of the race. And he has quite the gap to Bräuninger, who's in 8th, so at least would bag some good points.
Yeah. And hopefully he can get a bit more back in his groove with a new set of rubber on. And he's off and moving again. Reset his penalty. He has come out in front of Bräuninger. So now I think he'll just be saying, just don't ruin the tyres. This is, you've got to make this what's that last 40 minutes.
I mean, while we I can't pronounce the word I just want to say. Where we talk about all the implications of standings and points and so on. This is the current standing of the RENNSPORT Founders League. As you can see, Maximilian Dehn currently in the lead of this race, but also winning the last one. He's 10 points ahead of Schroeder, who isn't here, 10 points ahead, 20 points ahead of Krause, who isn't here, and 30 points ahead of Lata, who isn't here. So his closest competition, who is in this race, Timothy Fritsch and Joachim Thunder, they are 50 and 60 points behind him.
Yeah, and Fritsch and Thunder are both currently only one position between them in the standings, and they are in the opposite order right now in the race. So there could be a little bit of an impact there.
I mean, Alisa is also sitting there in 8th. It will always, in any case, as long as they can finish this race, put them into the podium positions overall. Which would already be good for them for the later two stages, for the later two races that are about to come after this. But of course, with the two Bessias in this race, I want to say brothers, but I don't know if they're brothers, so before I assume something wrong, but I've seen so many brother teams, basically. I mean, what comes to mind first for me is, of course, the Mackenbergs, and who we've also seen in RENNSPORT. But these two, especially Marat and Bessia, is going to bag some good points if he can finish in this position.
Yeah, for sure. He's having a really good race. And it'll be... I'm looking forward to seeing if he has gone for a one-stop strategy. I still think he has, but we'll see. And whether or not he can make the tyres last for 60 minutes. Matteo Gaspari as well, currently in his championship position of 9th.
He's getting pressured by Angel Wollschläger, though.
The last lap for Dean was the fastest lap of the race at an 8:38.7, which is a pretty impressive lap in a GT4 car. Marin Bezier, who of course has more fuel on board, managing an 8:43.4, which is still faster than I could do.
Oh, Gaspari going wide there through Schmidt's Kurve.
Yeah, Wollschläger needing no second invitation to take that position.
We will be right back with footage. Meanwhile, another look at the schedule as said previously in the stream. This is the GT4 race, round 2. And in 2 weeks we'll have the front wheel drive series. And in 4 weeks will be the finale of season 1. The format isn't quite known yet, but maybe you can figure it out in the chat or in the Discord.
10 minutes. 10-minute race.
1 lap shootout.
Yep.
It would be quite funny, I think, in a way, to have up to 24 cars going at it in 1 lap of Nordschleife. You'd probably have a big slipstream train through the Döttinger Höhe, but that's not quite the case.
It would be a bit of almost kind of NASCAR style finish with nobody wanting to be at the front as they come into Döttinger.
But here we are back with Joachim Thunder getting past. I think that should be callback.
Yeah, I think it was kind of a foreseen.
What do you think? How much longer will Maximilian Dehn go in this race before doing? I'm sure he has to do a second pit stop.
Yeah, I'm sure he does. He's, I keep meaning to look to see how much fuel he's burning in a lap, but I keep forgetting. But he can definitely do another one. Whether he could do another two is, I think, could be pretty sketchy. So I think he's going to pit at the end of this lap. And the gap between him and Bezier is currently 26 seconds. Which I don't think I think he would come out second at that point. I think Bezier would overtake him just.
But of course, Maximilian Dehn would have the faster car.
He would, yeah. Depending whether or not he changes tyres as well or just puts a little bit of fuel on board.
I mean, if he changes tyres, he will definitely come out behind Bezier.
Yep. Timothy Frisch coming into the pits right now. He actually has quite a lot of fuel on board already, so yeah, I think he maybe just decided he needed a little top up and he's changing tyres.
I mean, if he made it this far without a tyre change, because he hasn't changed tyres on the first cycle, will definitely make it through the rest of the race without much of an issue.
Yeah.
I wonder how it will play out for Joachim Thunder. He's now also on 30-minute-old tires. Talby hasn't changed tires. The gap is still 17 seconds between the two of them.
Talby is running a little bit more fuel currently than Joachim Thunder, so I think they may be stopping at different laps. Bezier and Talby are on roughly equal fuel. So Thunder's the odd one out in that trio.
Can already see the back end kicking out on that R8 GT4. It's usually a sign that you have an imbalance between the front and rear tires already at low speed turns. And from that point on, it doesn't really get better with that issue.
No, that's for sure. I think Timothy Frisch may have sneezed when he was hitting the refueling button because he entirely topped his tank up there. I know these cars are a bit hungry on fuel, but you don't need that much.
Very unlikely. Especially this late in the race. But the gap between Talby and Thunder is staying roughly the same. It's always around 17 seconds. Their best and last lap times, which are both the same. So each driver's last lap time was their best lap time up until this point. Also only 5/10 apart, which on the Nordschleife is basically nothing.
Yeah, for sure. They've been almost shadowing each other, just 17 seconds apart.
Maximilian Den will win this race, which I wouldn't be so certain about yet due to the strategy. But if he can, he will basically become the Dominic Ladle of the Founders League.
I'm pretty sure he's going to pit this lap. I don't think he'll have enough fuel to go around again, so I think he'll have to be ducking in for a quick pit stop, at least for fuel.
I'm also sure he doesn't want to risk it, and he has exactly 30 minutes left in this race.
And he has a 30-second gap to Marin Bezier right now. I think Joachim Thunder's going to have to come in this lap for a pit stop as well. Unless he's got some kind of super secret technique under his belt.
I mean, the cars are also very spread out across the track. Everybody's pretty much driving on their own. Maybe at some stages in this track, Alizai, I can see Timothy Fridge, but that's about it. So depending on what type of driver you are, if you can drive better in clean air, or if you are better with the driver in front, this will also be fairly interesting. And if Joachim Thunder comes in this lap, which he probably will, Nicolas Bessiere might move up into 4th position again. If he doesn't have to pit.
Doing a little bit of head math, which admittedly might be wrong. I think it's going to be very close whether Marin Bezier can actually make it to the end of the race without stopping. Of course, with it being a timed race, if they cross the line just before the end of the race, they do have to do another lap.
If you ran that position, I mean, he has more than a minute to Thierry Tarby behind, so he can easily make another pit stop without losing position. Would you go and risk it?
I think at the minute, I think he's aiming for Dean. Dean is changing tyres on his pit stop, by the way. Sorry, I'm a little bit ahead of you. But he's coming for refueling and he is changing tyres. So Marin Bezier will definitely overtake him here.
But Bessiere is also coming in.
Bezier is coming in, yeah.
What is he about to do?
Bezier is also changing tyres. So he decided he couldn't make it to the end of the race on his rubber. Which, of course, changing tyres is the big time sink when it comes to a pit stop.
27 seconds stationary, so that's quite the amount of time.
He had a very good pit stop, though. He was pretty much on his marks.
Joachim Thunder having me on the edge of my seat right there with that slide right to the grass. If he would have clipped that, he would probably have gone around, but he's definitely confident with the car. I also really like the details around the track that are, for example, on the street alongside the Döttinger Höhe. You can see cars driving and stuff. I really love that stuff. They're going fairly fast for the speed limit there. I've been there in real life and I think there's 60 or 80 kph. These cars are definitely going a bit quicker than that.
Of course, as we all know, German drivers only ever drive at the speed limit.
Speed limits are optional. Joachim Thunder coming in.
Thunder also changing tires after his interesting sliding moves.
It is definitely the safer way to go with this car in specific.
Yeah, for sure.
Timothy Fritsch now on the Döttinger Höhe, so he will still come out in front of him. Do you think we will see even faster lap times from Becerra and Dean up front?
I don't know about that. I mean, Dean's 8:38 is pretty fast. I don't suppose now he's going to be wanting to be pushing it. He's got a 30-second lead. They've both shown their hands as far as pit stops is concerned. I can't imagine him pushing quite as hard as he was earlier.
I mean, if we check the all-time records, he is currently with that lap time holding the record.
Nice.
So the two leading drivers in this race also having the fastest recorded lap times in this class on this track. Maybe we can also take a look at time trial to what is possible, even though there's only a few laps. And Dean is actually fast. Of course, with less fuel load, you can go faster. In the time trial, you always start with the 45 liters per lap. But there's an 844, Becerra with an 845. Even on the Audi, Dane has a lap time of 43.9, so I was slightly faster. Followed by Remco Major with an 8:45.9. Bit of improvement there, Mr. Major.
Are you baiting?
Yes. Pretty much. But, yeah, drifting there. Coming out of the Breitscheid Bridge.
Thierry Tolby and Nicolas Bezier will definitely be having to pit in this lap. As well, Walschlager, who's just going down the Dottinger now, so he's nearly in. Nicolas Bezier currently has nearly 29 seconds on Joachim Thunder. Of course, he will have, like I said, he's going to have to pit this lap. So whether he comes out ahead of Jochen Thunder or not could be an interesting thing to notice. He's still got a long way to go around on his lap, but he's going to be looking at that gap and trying to decide whether he can get in and out of the pits in time.
Little issue with my keyboard right there, that's why I need to pause the live footage for a moment. Could you take a look at the fuel level from Pierre Colbeck for a second?
I can in a second. Colbeck is doing good on fuel. He's got plenty in his tank.
Because it sounded a bit weird there for a second, lifting off on a straight.
He's got plenty in his tank. Maximilian Dean obviously not taking his foot off the throttle that much because he has set a fastest sector 3 this lap.
I mean, with that fuel load, I don't really expect him to go faster than his personal best, but still on a very good trajectory in this race. With only 20 minutes left to go.
I have just noticed that Marin Bezier has a drive-through penalty to serve. So I don't know if he was maybe got a bit of speeding in the pit lane action.
It's very likely.
He's going to be kicking himself about that. Although Talby needs to pit still, so he should still hold on to second place easy enough. But he's still going to be pretty angry about that, I would have thought.
I mean, Maximilian Dehn will probably not know about it. He will only see the gap to Bezier increase as soon as he comes in.
Comes in. Just serves his drive-through. Nothing interesting to report there. And he's already out on track with Thierry just coming to the end of his lap.
I mean, depending on whether Thierry Talby does change tires or not, it will also be interesting to see if Nicolas Bezier can get past. And indeed, he does change tires. Could be tight on the exit. This here also coming into the pits, so he needs to refuel, I presume.
Yeah, he was pretty much on bingo fuel. Just sees Tolvi leaving the pits as he pulls into his pit box. He's also changing tires. So, Joachim Thunder goes past him on track.
And also the gap between Thunder and Tarby isn't too big, actually.
No, it's only 9 seconds. Going by fastest lap time, Talvi has been slightly faster than Thunder, but it's in that margin of error for the Nordschleife that doesn't really mean much.
I presume we have 2 more laps after this one. Aliza also going through on this here. But if I've seen that correctly, he has changed tires as well, so he's on fresh rubber. Alizaya has changed around 30 minutes ago, so these tires already have 3 laps on them.
Yeah, Nicholas Bezier and Thierry Tolby both changed tires. Joachim Thunder's obviously a lap holder, so that's not too bad. Timothy Frisch just set his fastest lap of the race, at 8:55.5.
He's quietly moved up into 5th as well.
Yeah, it's a respectable lap time.
He's been a bit under the radar at times, but is slowly making progress in this race.
Joachim Thunder's last lap was it was a 9:53. I thought it was at 8:53 because he pitted. So yeah, him, Thunder, Talby, and Fritsch have all got pretty much the same fastest lap time. So any kind of difference in pace between them at the minute will be entirely down to fuel load and tire wear, basically.
I mean, what could have been if Joachim Thunder was able to set a lap time? He wouldn't have started in, I think, P10, 10-ish something.
Yeah.
Oh, Becerra coming out of Exmühle.
Got plenty of space to get the car turned round, which is, if anything good could be said about that.
I mean, it's not always the case on the Nordschleife, so...
No, you can sometimes have a fair queue of cars before you can get your car spun around.
Gap between Talby and Thunder is equalized at around 7.5 seconds, so 1.5 less than when they exited the pits, but it didn't really change much since they entered the Nordschleife. But Maximilian Dehn, what a race so far. He's had a very good performance in the last race throughout. This time had a bit of at least someone who was a bit closer compared to last time with Marin Becerra, especially in the early stages of the race, keeping him on his toes. But since the second pit stop, just ran off. Oh, and now big drift through the small carousel, just showing off there a bit. But not looking back again. Relentless behind the wheel, that's for certain. But it will be 2 more laps he has to complete, and so does everybody else in this race. Gaps further behind. Talby and Thunder 8 seconds now, so Thunder lost out a bit. Of course, also an older rubber. Fuel loads should be roughly the same, so there's definitely an advantage to Thierry Talby. Timothy Fritsch having more than 20 seconds to Ali Zaya, but the gap between Zaya and Nicolas Bessier is only 5 seconds, so Nicolas Bessier has the fresher tires. He only changed them 1 lap ago, while Ali Zaya is on tires that are roughly 25 minutes old. 35 minutes, I think, even. I think he came in with 45 left to go, so that's quite the distance these tires have had to endure, and they can already see him in the background. It's only 5 seconds between the two of them, so he has to make up 2.5 seconds to be in striking distance on the last lap. That is not too much time he has to make up for. Marin Bessier, since his spin... Oh, he is coming to the pits again. Is he possibly changing tires after that spin once more? Maybe trying to go for a fastest lap as well. Talby is quite a while back, so he can probably afford to do so, but not how you wish this race to end, I guess, for Marin Bessier. But so far, he's also had a very good run. You can also see Joachim Thunder in the background while watching Thierry Talby. Of course, on a clear day like this, can see quite far. There comes Marin Bessier out of the pits. With fresh tires on the car. And Nicolas Bessier has made it past Alizaya. Catched up fairly quick then there. These two have fought quite a lot before in the first few laps of this race while it still was dark. But Alizaya was way strong in that stage of the race. Has struggled since 20 to 30 minutes into the race. Unfortunately, not quite the way he would have hoped this race to go. They were fighting for 3rd and 4th. Now inherited by Thierry Talby and Joachim Thunder, who came from way down the grid. Between the two groups, Timothy Fritsch was having a very good race. As said previously, under the radar, not really being very prominent in this race. So not a lot of fights or something, but just consistent and good driving. Is putting the German into a position. We'll give him good points for the championship, which we can take another look at now that we come to the end of this race. We can see Timothy Fritsch currently in 6th in the standings, 5th in this race. We will also put a bit of a gap to Alizar here, since he is 2 spots in front of him. If he can keep Joachim Thunder behind, will be hard to tell, but of course with a few less drivers in this race compared to the last one 2 weeks ago, this will yield a fewer amount of points. So if Joachim Thunder will stay in 4th and can't catch up to Talbi in front, that will be possibly a bit less than 10 points for him to make up. But it's looking very good for this man in 1st, Maximilian Dehn. But the gap between Talbi and Thunder is come down to 3 seconds. Something must have happened to Talbi. Must have had a major off or issue with his tires that he loses so much time now with few tenths per sector Joachim Thunder is making up here. I was expecting a one-stopper starting this race, especially since the GT4s are a bit more gentle on their tires, but to see basically only 2 stoppers, but in very different ways. So we've seen them being split very differently, some coming in earlier or some later for the second stop, and some only changing tires on one of the 2 stops. It has been very interesting. Of course, there's not that much experience in those cars with those races. The longest we've run them is 60 minutes on Monza so far. And in the multi-class races, 45-minute races, where you usually only refuel and not go for tires at all. Thunder now can see Talbi through almost every turn. Sure, for him that's also a bit of a motivational boost to get that podium. Now this long climb up the hill through Kesselchen. Especially in lower horsepower cars, this feels like an eternity. In GT4 cars it's quite alright here, due to the lesser downforce and still quite a lot of power. It's very bearable, but driving this, for example, in the touring car is a bit tedious at times. But we are surpassing the 2-second distance between Thunder and Talbi. Meanwhile, Maximilian Dehn, with 1 minute left on the time, will start the final lap of this race. So we run 11 laps in total. I think that's Kolbeck we've seen in front there. No, it's not Kolbeck. Might be Wollschläger. Yes, indeed it is. Let's concentrate on Talbia's Thunder now through Hohe 8. As 1 second separates the two. For Thunder, this might mean P2 in the championship. Talbi not taking as many risks as we've seen him taking before. But the pace is still good enough to keep Joachim Thunder at a certain distance, so you won't be able, unless the sector coming up now before the Rettinger Höhe is audacious by Thunder or Talbi, to come into slipstream. Meanwhile, I'm hearing that my beloved colleague Tim Ireland is back at the mic as well.
Hello. Sorry, I just had a small dad duty to take care of.
So I'm sorry you had to take a seat with me for the last 5 minutes, so now you've got some good voiceover to listen to again. And it's exactly what I told, that Thunder sector was very good and Talbi's wasn't quite that good.
It's going to be interesting dotting a Hoa there, isn't it?
BMW is strong on the straightaway though.
I think a slightly more telling thing might be that Thierry Talbi is about to run out of fuel.
Coming into the Hohenrhein. Oh, and indeed, Talbi is out of fuel.
Oh, he's so close.
Will it be enough for him? Still stationary at just before the pit lane and just before the start-finish straight. Timothy Fritsch will come through now.
He's got to be kicking himself about that one.
It's the second or third BMW we've seen one out of fuel today.
He was so close.
And yet so far.
I think if he'd maybe lifted a little bit and ridden Joachim Thunder's slipstream down Dottinger there, he could have just made it back to his pit box, done a splash and dash, but he obviously got caught up in the battle that was going on.
To me, it also seemed like he didn't really anticipate running out of fuel, so maybe he just didn't take a look at it. He completely underestimated the fuel usage.
Maybe, yeah.
Because he ran his line as normal in front of Joachim Thunder, and suddenly the car just stopped going. Of course, no fuel in the tank. How should the car accelerate? But I don't think he knew that he was out of fuel.
No, he was maybe not paying any attention at all to it. Just concentrating on the battle that was unfolding.
I mean, Joachim Thunder might have overtaken him nonetheless, because he was faster before, and I doubt that Talbi was holding anything back after seeing that. But
For sure.
yeah, what an end to this fight. And unless somebody is as generous to push him into the pits and he can actually make it there, because the pits are a bit longer, and depending on where you have the pit box, he can make it there or not. He might actually be classified as a DNF.
Yeah, unfortunately, the position he's in on track as well, it'd be pretty hard for someone to notice that he was stationary and get to push him in, because he's right on the left-hand side.
If Maximilian Dehn was 1 minute slower, he might have made it. You know, that will promote Bräuninger to 7th place.
Bräuninger got to notice. No, he just drives fast.
But I doubt that anybody can take away this win from Maximilian Dehn. His fuel is looking good enough to finish off this lap. And what a race it has been by Maximilian Dehn. Once again. Not quite as dominant as last time around, I'd say, but still, especially after 2/3 of the race, no looking back.
Yeah.
Actually
Marin
improved his lap
Bezier
time.
Marin Bezier is not holding back either. He's set 3 purple sectors this lap. He's definitely wants to show that he's still got the pace.
And he changed tires 2 laps ago for that one final attempt, so let's see if he can make it work. Of course, with 2 purple sectors, already a good start. Actually, 3 purple sectors as I'm talking right now, but let's see if he can improve on that.
But I think the pairing of Dean and Bezier have definitely thrown down the gauntlet as far as saying that they're pretty quick on the Nordschleife. I mean, if anybody wants to come and challenge them, then step up to the Kings.
Here comes Maximilian Dehn one final time. Out of the final turn, it's Maximilian Dehn for a 2nd victory in a row, going past poor Thierry Talbi there. 2nd victory in the Founders League, 2nd victory on the Nordschleife.
Yeah, he's definitely shown his skills on the Nordschleife so far. He's you can't deny those are 2 pretty impressive performances.
I wonder what would happen if we see him in RCL event. Or maybe in RCE at some point.
Yeah, that would definitely be good.
Will Marin Bezier be able to clinch the fastest lap?
He has a couple of red sectors, which means they're not the fastest. He has a green, which is his personal fastest. And 3 purple sectors, which is the fastest in the race. So make that 4 purple sectors.
He has to beat an 8:38.5. His ideal lap time, if I see that right, is an 8:38.2.
He's definitely got it in him.
Nearly losing the car there, going into a 1-1.
He's looking pretty fast, but he's got it on edge.
What will it be? It's a 38.6, only 1/10 slower than Maximilian Dehn.
So close. But again, it's still an impressive lap.
And 1/10 on the Nordschleife is pretty much nothing.
Yep.
On other tracks, you would be talking about 100th at most. Maybe 1.5 if it's Spa or something, but yeah, 1/10 is just nothing for these drivers. But yeah, very unfortunately for Tarby. He was fighting with this man for the final podium spot, Joachim Thunder.
Yeah, for sure. It's disappointing for him.
Going past, coming
Joachim.
home in third. But still coming from P10-ish something to finish on the podium in this race. He really had to fight for it, didn't he?
Oh yeah, he's put up a good fight today. It's been an impressive amount of battling from Joachim Thunder. I'm wondering if somebody's going to do it. If somebody's going to push Tolby across the line, it is not going to be Timothy Frisch. We're running out of options here.
Nicolas Bessier will be the next one. As long as he gets pushed along or across the line, he will be classified in the end.
Yeah.
Oh! Nicolas Bessier slowing down.
But here we go.
Isn't that beautiful? Nicolas Bessier pushing Thierry Tarby, who's run out of fuel 1 lap ago, across the line. They're both gonna finish in 5th and 9th.
Nicolas Bessier, the people's champion.
Indeed. Very much indeed.
He may have finished 5th, but he's first in our hearts. Maximilian Dehn doing a victory lap.
I mean, he's already in the Fox row, so let's see Alizea, meanwhile, coming home in 6th. Oh, and Bräuninger with a very big off there. Bit curious why Pierre Colbeck isn't classified yet, since he's come home in behind Maximilian Dehn.
Yeah. I'm not sure about that one. Definitely a strange moment. But it's okay, Enrico Bräuninger. We're not all watching you.
It's always the curse of the last car to drive. But what a performance once more.
Yeah, for the top two positions. I think the gap is perhaps not quite representative of the closeness between those two drivers. It came down to some strategy decisions rather, but on pure pace, very close between the pair of them.
Pointing out the last one we are waiting for to finish this session. But yeah, in 2 weeks we will go with the front-wheel drive series, which includes the Hyundai Elantra TCR and the Audi RS3 TCR. It will be very interesting around it.
Yeah. This section here, dotting a hub, maybe not so much fun in the TCRs. I can't imagine they're getting anywhere close to the speeds of the GT4s down there, but slipstream battles could be pretty intense.
I think there's the gear limiter in your way before, to be honest.
Yeah.
But of course, these cars don't have ABS and you still go fairly fast in them. I think they can hit speeds of 240 if I remember that correctly. So you go down to Hohenrhein to Tiergarten with 240 on the clock and you have to brake while turning without ABS.
Yeah.
That might be double as interesting though, so let's see.
And front-wheel drive as well, so no ABS, obviously front-wheel steering.
Indeed, that will be very interesting, but we will see what the next race will bring. Of course, then we will also announce what the last race will be.
Ooh, what could it be? The
What could it
mystery
be?
solved.
It's not the mystery track, Mr. Thunder. But
But it is a mystery time.
indeed.
It's another one to add to the mystery list.
Lots of mysteries in RENNSPORT. But of course, next week we will also have not only the EWC in RENNSPORT, but also the RCL Finale. Final race, round 6 at Monza. So that will also be fairly. It's very much in the favor of Dominik Ladler to back a second community league in a row, basically. But
yeah,
Monza has proven to be a very interesting race, especially in those community leagues. So make sure to not miss that next Friday, 8 p.m. And do you want to add something to this race?
No, it was a good race. It was impressive. I think the pace and the consistency of the drivers was good. It was a good 90-minute race with what I don't think people really have been had. Well, sorry, words. I don't think people had any particular knowledge of how the GT4 tires were going to work, so it threw a few spanners in the works. But yeah, it made for some exciting finishing.
Indeed. Congrats to Maximilian Dehn once more, but also to both the best years, one for putting as much of a fight and the other for showing great sportsmanship by pushing another competitor across the line. So I'd say we see each other next week on Friday, 8 p.m. And until, have a great time, enjoy this evening, and goodbye.
Goodbye.